everyone, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk to entertainment. We're getting closer to May 16th, the new host, the new show. We've already started the new branding of Online Big Blue. It's going to be fun, it's going to be exciting, and I had 4 or 5 videos which I had tucked away in the Online Big Blue archive that I was not going to put out. But I've decided, so people have been requesting that I put them out, so I'm going to put them out. And one of the videos I was doing was talking about the 3 things the Giants need to do to improve their offense in 2021. And so what I'm going to do is I was going to run the video, but you know what? I think I'm just going to do it right now on the fly because I had some things I wanted to add to the video. As we all know, the Giants, of course, it could have been Jason Garrett, could be Daniel Jones, could be the offensive line. Could be the injuries of Saquon Barkley. There is a plethora of things that caused the Giants to have a very lackluster offense in 2020. But what can we do to improve in 2021? What are going to be the keys? Everyone talks about the skill positions we brought in. We brought in old Kenny Smooth, Kenny G. We got House of Glass, John Ross. We picked up, our old buddy Kyle Rudolph, once we see what happens with his foot. You still have people like CJ Board and Dante Pettis. I think Austin Mack and Alex Bachman and everyone still on the roster. And then, of course, you have the offensive line, which was at times a train wreck. But I don't want to digress into the 2020 season too much because I want to see I want to focus what we need to do to improve in 2021 just to make this a competitive offense. Now, the biggest problem, of course, people are going to say is they didn't have the continuity. And Joe Judge came out and said, we didn't have the continuity in training camp because we didn't have the training camp. We didn't have preseason. And I love it because, it's funny because you have 2 schools of thoughts. You have 2 camps. That preseason's a waste of time. And then last year, of course, we didn't have preseason. Then preseason meant everything. And then they are willing to lose a preseason game, but add a regular season game. So I don't buy the preseason nonsense. I really don't. Because everyone was in the same boat in reference to not having, not of course everyone's installing new offenses, but every team was in the same boat in regards to not having a preseason. And it's difficult for any quarterback to learn a new offense, but you're still getting the repetition. And honestly, if you think about it, as a starting quarterback in preseason, maybe you're going to play the first series, game 1. You're going to maybe go into the first quarter in game 2. You may play a half, and really they've gotten away from that in game 3. And then in game 4, you don't even play at all. So I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that as an excuse. I think it was more of a perfect storm of issues that caused us to have the lackluster showing in 2020. So in 2021, what do we need to improve on? Well, the first thing we need to improve, it's going to start at the top. And I was going to separate these 2, but I'm going to put these 2 together. It's Jason Garrett and Daniel Jones. The simpatico relationship needs to mature. Garrett needs to trust Jones more. Jones needs to trust his ability. Good or bad, right or wrong or indifferent, that's what's going to happen. I think what happened later in the 2020 season is the Giants offense went in the tank because of the fact they were so concerned and flustered by Daniel Jones' injuries that they put him more into positions where he could not cause turnovers. They put him in positions where he was not going to cause turnovers. They were not going to allow him to be the factor for them to lose the game. But when in doing that, you're also making him not allowing him to be the factor to win the game. I mean, it was a perfect example in the unicorn game with Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy only really threw 4 big passes in the game. I think that's what they try to do with Daniel Jones. They try to win with defense. But they're going to have to open up the playbook. They're going to have to go to the Jason Garrett motion offense, Eric Coryell, like he ran the first 2 years. If you feel that you have the depth in your skilled positions enough, especially with taking Tony, Sterling Shepard, Dante Pettis, Kenny Galley, Kenny, I like Kenny, Darius Slayton. You figure, and Evan Ingram, you have to open it up then. You do. You have to then figure out a way to make Daniel Jones understand, and I don't think you ever can make him understand. I think Daniel Jones's biggest issue is the fact that when he sees the field, his brain synapses, whatever the hell they're called, are not firing fast enough into his hands. I don't think he's visualizing the field quick enough. And, you would hope that would come with time. Now, a lot of things that they did with him, especially with, in his rookie season, they use a lot of play action. And I've always said it before, Daniel Jones is a first-rate quarterback, and that's what he is. Using the play action, it eliminates Daniel Jones' decision-making process. Because what you do with the play action is you run the play action, and at the point in time, you look directly at your first option. And you're hoping that the defense is frozen with the play action or is moved off to the one side or fell for the run, potentially the run if you do it properly. And I think that's how they excel. Now, you cannot continuously use play action. You can't. You're going to have to make him more into a pocket passer. Does he have the natural skills and abilities to do that? I don't know. I don't think anyone does. I don't know if Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones from 2019. I don't know if he's Daniel Jones from 2020. Nobody does. Anyone who says it does is an idiot and a liar because you don't know. You can scream at the top of your lungs that Daniel Jones is the franchise quarterback, but you don't know. Just like I don't know he's not. So there has to be more of a trust level between Jason Garrett and Daniel Jones. Right or wrong, good or bad, they have to trust each other. Plain and simple. If they can figure out a way to trust each other and have Daniel Jones figure out his progressions, and they will be more successful if the skill position players fill in like they should. And that's the other big thing, the skill positions. I'm not sure what 100% was going on with Darius. Like I've always said, your second year, the league figures you out. They got 16 weeks of tape on you over how many games you played. They start learning your tendencies. And I don't think Darius adjusted enough. I mean, it didn't help that Daniel Jones missed him a couple times, but I don't think Darius adjusted enough yet to the league. And I think he has the ability to readjust. I think adding Kenny G will allow Darius to have more single coverage. And I think that's going to help him exponentially. I'm not seeing Tony, especially early in the season, being more than a fourth wide receiver. Unless he turns a huge page. And like I said, we have not seen, if you watch Tony's career, he had 4 years at Florida. It wasn't until his last year during COVID, not top tier talent, did he excel. So I don't see, he should be a better option as a punt returner. He should be able to add, a fourth receiving option, which will allow them to spread the field. But the Giants' skill players need to improve greatly. I'm not buying in the separation thing because, like I said, I talked to someone that worked in the league for years, and he says good quarterbacks create their own passing window. In other words, he means you drop it on it. You want to call him Danny Dimes, you drop it on a dime. And he basically even said, if you have a 2-yard cushion, you're open. So he says fans more fall into that trap than anything else. So the skill positions needs to turn itself around. And I think they can. I think if Kenny's healthy from the hip pointer and the hamstring and can play, I would say if he can play 15, 14 weeks, that'll take the pressure off Darius. If Evan Ingram can turn around and catch the ball, I think that's going to be a fantastic option as well. And I think Sterling Shepard, if he could stay on the field and not a concussion protocol, will have the ability. Like I said, this is all going to rely on the smooth sounds of Kenny G. If Kenny G is not Plaxico Burress and turns into the last year of Ernest Gray, we could have some problems. If he turns into, we could have some issues. Because the unit outside of Kenny is not strong enough to completely carry each other. Carry the team separately. Kenny G has to be on the field. That for this to work, Kenny has to play, I would say 90% of, if not more, of the offensive snaps for the Giants. Kind of like what they did on defense with James Bradbury and Blake Martinez and Peppers, who played basically 90% of the snaps all the time. Kenny G's going to have to do that. Because I don't think right now the skilled positions outside of Kenny or anything to, and this is right now, and that's really, or anything to write home about. So Kenny is your proven commodity. You put him on the field, it's going to be hopefully all eyes on Mr. Kenny G, which then will allow the rest of the field to be open for your other skill positions. And last but not least, and of course it seems like a simple thing, that's why there's only three things, it's the offensive line. The offensive line in spurts, played extremely effectively. Nick Gates is a center in learning. He's learning to be a center. I've said it before. I watched the Giants in '76. I've never seen a center get so many holding penalties. Never. Never. But he's learning the position. You're asking him to learn it on the fly. The problem is with the Giants offensive line, we have so many parts. And some of these parts just don't fit. Like Zach Fulton. Zach Fulton, the nicest thing they could say about him in Houston was he couldn't pass block. That's not an ideal situation to have a guy starting at right guard. I'm not saying he's going to start right guard, but I'm just saying that's not an ideal situation. Will Hernandez is coming. This is his make or break year. Andrew Thomas we need to figure out what Andrew Thomas is. I still have tons of faith in Andrew Thomas. I think injuries and, other not outside factors, but other factors have led him astray a little bit. Then he started turning the corner and then, but I think the injuries I think the ankle injury may have been an issue. And then you have Shane Lemieux, who filled in admirably for Will Hernandez. Not very well in reference to pass blocking, but he is a guy that can pave the road. And Matt from Connecticut, I'm going to miss saying that name, Matt from Connecticut. Matt was put into positions in the game to excel. They played to his strengths, and that's what they did with the line substitution. When they were unable to, and he needed to fill in, like the Eagle game, we saw what happened in the Eagle game. The Eagle game, he got beat many times. He got beat like he stole something. But I think he's in the gym, and I said he was going to be a 2-year, 3-year project anyways, but I think he can solidify into a strong right tackle. So the question is, or he could even be moving the Inksy. I'm really telling you this. To me, the question on this line and the biggest if factor to me is Nick Gates. And people are going to be like, well, you didn't like Nick Gates last year. No, I didn't say I didn't like Nick Gates last year. I just said I didn't like the fact that Nick Gates was playing out of position last year. And you also gave a guy a contract for after he hadn't done anything. Because he's the alpha male. But I think he's going to be the linchpin to the line. Because honestly, if Jonathan Harrison can come in and play center, you can then take Nick and put him over at the right guard position. I think Nick is a better right guard than he is a center. And I think he should be in that position. And if you're going to keep Matt at the right tackle position, I would feel more comfortable having Nick Gates sitting there at right guard with Matt. I am still not comfortable with Will Hernandez with Andrew Thomas because I said it before. I think Will Hernandez, I think a lot of the issues that Nate Solder and Andrew Thomas had, and I don't think it's a coincidence when Will Hernandez went out into the COVID protocol, that all of a sudden Andrew Thomas's play picked up exponentially. And that was when he was paired with Shane Mew. I just think Hernandez misses too many assignments. I just think that he's outside of that one rookie season, he's not the guy I think who we think he is. But I think if you put Thomas, Lemieux, Harrison, Gates, and potentially Matt or swing in Nate Solder, I think you could have a pretty solid line. And I think that would be effective. Because like I said, there were times last year that Daniel Jones had a ton of time to throw. Tons of times to throw. I think he held on to the ball the third longest last season. Daniel Jones, that was. So I think that, like I said, I think Nick Gates is actually going to be the linchpin of this line because I think he needs to be moved back to right. I think he needs to be moved to right guard. I really do. And I think if you have a true center in Harrison, then you have Gates at playing more into a position at right guard, and he can help out Matt. You can even swing Nate's. You can even swing Nate Solder maybe between, like I said, between the tackles. You don't know. And you hope that Shane Lemieux is going to progress. But I think Nick Gates in some ways is the key to making the offensive go. And I should say the offensive line go. But I think if we can focus on getting a simpatico relationship with Daniel Jones and Jason Garrett, I think if Kenny G can stay consistently on the field and allow the other players not to be developed into a double team situation, and I think if someone like Nick Gates can be slid over to the guard position and Jonathan Harrison can move in, I think we can have a much more effective offense. And I think if Daniel Jones is gained more trust between Joe Judge, and I don't just think it's Jason Garrett. I think Joe Judge has something to do with this as well. I think if he can gain more of the trust of the coaching staff to allow him to be a big play quarterback, I think the Giants can effectively have an effective offense. Would they have a top 15 offense? I would say they would be below top 15, but they're not going to be they won't be at the bottom of the league. And of course, Barkley's going to have to stay healthy, but you never know it. That's why I'm not even counting into the running back position because you have no clue what's going to happen with Barkley right now. Nobody does. You have no, unless you have had an ACL surgery, and I've had two. I have an ACL and I've had ACL replacement where they actually took part of my patella tendon and made it into my new ACL. Of course, that was back in the Stone Age when they were operating with sharpened sticks. You don't know how the knee is going to respond. You could feel good for one moment and you can feel like crap the next moment. You can have moments where you feel better than you did before, then you can feel worse than you did before. So you never know. But like I said, I think if the Giants can effectively maintain Daniel Jones' confidence, keep Kenny G on the field, and potentially, like I said, figure out a way to slide Nick Gates over to right guard, put Jonathan Harrison back in center, let Matt play, let Andrew Thomas play, and probably let Shane Lemieux play. I think we can have a decent offense. Like I said, not top 15, but you know what? Enough to win games. And that's what this league is all about. And again, this is Tim of the Online Big Blue, bringing you the best of New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you can like, if you can subscribe, if you're reading up anything other means, that is